But I kind of want to break down just like, the history of just like the West Side of Manhattan and the Irish. So the Irish mob, like kind of who's considered like the first boss is this guy named Owen Madden, who was this major bootlegger who kind of like started this organization that's really passed on through the generations. And after Prohibition, a lot of the Irish gangsters leave because they realized like we had this massive moneymaker through Prohibition. We've kind of risen up the social ladder. Like now after Prohibition, there is a lot of very wealthy Irish people in New York. There is a lot of Irish people because they were more wealthy. They were getting into politics. And it really is after Prohibition, there's no need for an Irish mob. And you look at
if you're using it for those reasons.
If you're using it for those reasons.
The survival reasons. You look not if you're power hungry.
You look at Owen Madden, or you look at like a lot of the early Prohibition gangsters. Once alcohol becomes legal again, they just take their money and they go. Or they open up a bar, they open up a restaurant.
Like what we did.
Like what we did. And they say, okay, we made our money. There's no need for this anymore. Then comes along an Irish gangster named Eddie Mcgrath, you're talking about the more power hungry. That's him. He kind of creates this empire through the West Side docks. He takes over the International Longshoremen Association, which is a union of dock workers that has always been heavily connected with the Irish mob. And then around the 1950s, he leaves New York for Florida, and he passes it off to this guy, Huey Mulligan. And Huey Mulligan, he has two kind of trainees or two proteges. One is Mickey Spillane, who is brought up in the book. Another one is James Burke, Jimmy Burke goes off to Queens and starts working for the Lucchese family.
By the way, anyone named Jimmy Burke, just immediately arrest them.
Right, because yesterday our video on Lost Girls came out. Since, obviously you're not going to know because like these come out weeks later after we shoot them. But anybody named, I want like two pieces of shit who we bring up often. Jimmy Burke, in Suffolk County, who kind of
just to give a little background. We talk about we had the movie Lost Girls we reviewed last week, which deals with the Long Island serial killer case, which is something that's very close to us, being from Long Island. But anyway, one of the key sort of figures, like a bad guy on the law enforcement side who ended up going to prison, was the former chief of police in Suffolk County on Long Island, where the murders happened, named James Burke. So Jimmy Burke.
The Jimmy Burke that I'm talking about.
Not the same. This is Jimmy Burke.
Also piece of shit.
Bob De Niro plays him in...
Robbie De Niro, who was...
in Goodfellas.
In Goodfellas...
Why did I call him Bob? I've literally never said that
Apparently
once.
In real life, he goes by Bob.
Maybe I heard that somewhere. Yeah. It just kind of came out.
He goes by Bob or Bobby.
Yeah.
Also, Jimmy Burke in real life, the Robert De Niro Jimmy Burke, way more of a psychopath than they show in
of course.
in the movie. I don't know
because Robert De Niro has such great acting range.
He does. He's good. One of like the scenes in when I read Wise Guys that really stuck out.
I love Robert De Niro. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, Robert De Niro is great.
The last 30 years, not so much with the range. 20 years.
Fine. Yeah, 20 years I'll give you.
That's fair.
One of the things that really stuck out in Wise Guys was that Jimmy Burke had like murdered one of his best friends because he thought he was going to be informant. Buried him under in his backyard and built a tennis court over the body. And Henry Hill would say we'd be playing tennis and he'd be like looking down and like having a whisper conversation like with his best friend that was buried underneath it.
That's not weird.
Yeah.
That's regular shit.
So you see kind of this organization that kind of started in Prohibition. It really like flourished with the dock bosses, Eddie Mcgrath, and the International Longshoremen Association. And there's kind of that connection where basically through the union, they're able to steal whatever they want.
Right.
They become,
that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, yeah, and to this day, there are people getting arrested who claim to be Westies. Or I think the earliest was maybe like early 2000s.
I respect that.
And it's like clearly they're like not associated, but like since they're Irish and they work on the
and real quick
West Side.
So our family, as we've mentioned a few times, we have a bar in New York, and two of the regular guys that used to be in there all the time
were Westies.
I shouldn't say their name.
You shouldn't say their name.
They were Westies.
They were Westies.
But they were old at this point. Like
yes.
I knew actually one of them has passed away, and the other one is. I was actually texting Justin, our cousin. Because I was asking if the other brother passed away too. Obviously, we haven't seen anybody since coronavirus.
Right.
But like, they were. I've actually like in drunken states been like, tell me about Mickey Featherstone, and they're like, they laugh, but they won't talk about it. But they'll be like, like, how do you know that type of thing?
Well, apparently. Here's another thing. So,
and they're from Hell's Kitchen. So.
Yeah. So anytime it comes talking about organized crime or a book on organized crime, it's always very hard to be accurate because most of this information is coming from informants who want to make themselves look better.
As far as sources, you mean?
As far as the sources go, who are trying to make themselves look better.
Yeah.
Other from it is from detectives investigating who want to make the gangsters seem as terrible as possible. Mm-hmm, so when you talk about Mickey Featherstone, at least in the book where a lot of this information is coming from Mickey Featherstone, he made it seem like he was one of the better Westies, where he was like, yeah, they would cut up bodies, but I always thought that was disgusting, so I would stay away from it. So when you're talking about like what these people were really like, it's always hard to say. And it's always hard to be accurate when you're talking about crime because, a lot of this is kept secret. So who knows what really happened?
And they're conniving people.
And they're conniving people who lie.
They're liars.
Yes.
If you're associating with people who cut up bodies, I'm not really taking your word on too many things.
Exactly. And there was kind of... So let's get back to Mickey Spillane. So sure. Mickey Spillane really is kind of like the last of the old bosses, where there was this...
he's a business type.
But really like this tradition of like one boss passed it down on to the other. Mickey Spillane is really last in line, and Mickey Spillane like kind of realizes that this is done. And the Italians are really moving into the neighborhood at this point.
Yeah, because he's feeling the pressure of the Italians.
He's feeling the pressure. The Jacob Javits Center is being built in Hell's Kitchen. It's a massive moneymaker, a lot of union jobs and contracts, and the Genovese family is trying to get in on that. And
the Italians are just so much better organized, like you said.
And they're so much better organized, and they're able to do it.
It's like fucking, David and Goliath. Like the Westies were a freaking joke, like compared to...
They're all kind of jokes compared to it. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, most like real like organized crime has disappeared long before the 70s. And by that time...
What do you mean?
When you're talking about like...
Not the Italians.
No, I'm talking about like besides the Italians.
Oh, okay.
Real other ethnic organized crime groups has kind of disappeared. You're talking about the Jewish mob,
right,
which at one point before Prohibition was more powerful than the Italians.
Yeah, maybe in like the Southwest at that point, right? Like with Vegas and all that.
Well, no, because Vegas really doesn't come into play until like the 40s.
No, I'm saying before the
like Jewish mob really kind of dissipates after
the 40s,
after Prohibition.
Gotcha.
There's really no Jewish organization like how it was pre-Prohibition, where you have like gangsters like Arnold Rothstein, was really probably the most powerful gangster in America, in like the 1910s.
I was going to say Urban Meyer, the fucking football coach. Meyer Lansky.
Well, Meyer Lansky kind of comes about later, but any Jewish mobsters that still are kind of power hungry and want a part of the gang, action really become more associated with just like the Italian mob.
Meyer Lansky was after Rothstein?
Yes. So Arnold Rothstein is like in the 1910s. Arnold Rothstein fixes the World Series.
The casino, the Black Sox stuff?
No. Yes. Arnold Rothstein and Rosenthal. Rosenthal is the casino guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
The R's,
totally different
R's
people.
trip me up. That's why I was saying like that timeline seems weird.
Totally different people.
My bad.
But so a lot of these older gangs kind of either disappeared, or whoever was left and still, had a loan sharking or whatever business became an associate of the Italians. And like you see with Jimmy Burke, he doesn't want to take on the Irish mob. He probably could have been.
You mean he doesn't want to join them?
He doesn't want to join them, but since he was one of Huey Milligan's proteges, he probably could have been the boss of the Irish mob.
Yeah, but then
he doesn't want that.
He would have been warring with the Italians.
He would have been warring with the Italians. He's given this kind of falling apart organization that, aren't really doing much anymore.
He made the right decision because he had the power of a captain, if not higher.
He goes to Queens. He works for the Lucchese crime family. He commits the biggest robbery in America at that point.
Shout out to Vinny Asaro, straight out of Howard Beach.
I don't know. He was also
captain.
Okay. And
I worked with
and Robert De Niro plays him in a movie, so he clearly makes the right. He clearly makes the right choice. At least you're talking about how a right choice in a gangster's decision.
And again, that just goes to show what BS it is. The whole I have to bring my people up in the world, and it's like, oh,
exactly.
Okay, really, but you're just working with the other
Yeah.